Hello children, now we'll be doing the third module of the lesson, the Christmas Truce. In the previous modules, we saw how Tom describes his unique Christmas celebration in a letter to his sister, Janet. Tom is a British soldier and is fighting in the battlefield. First World War is going on and the Britishers are fighting with the Germans. On the eve of Christmas, the Germans decorated their trenches with lighted Christmas trees. Both the side soldiers sang Christmas carols and cheered each other. They agreed to a truce throughout Christmas. The German and the British soldiers met in the no man's land and greeted each other. Now I move on to the next paragraph, page number 102. Before long, a bonfire was built and around it we mingled British khaki and German grey. Only a couple of men knew German, but more of the Germans knew English. I asked one of them why that was so. Because many have worked in England, he said. Before this, I was a waiter at a Hotel Cecil. Perhaps I waited at your table. Perhaps you did, I said, laughing. Now the words British khaki and German grey means the uniform of the British and German soldiers. It refers to the uniform color, you can say. The word mingled means mixed, to become friendly with each other. So soon a large number of German and British soldiers met. They lit a bonfire and mingled like old friends. They forgot that they were enemies. Although just a few British soldiers could speak German, but several German soldiers could converse very well in English. Tom asked one of the German soldiers, why was it so? And he found out that many of the German soldiers had spent time in England doing small odd jobs there. That German soldier had worked as a waiter in a hotel named Hotel Cecil. Then he cracked a joke saying that maybe he might have served Tom in that hotel. And Tom also agrees to it in a light-hearted manner. So there's a friendly talk going on now. All that serious fighting atmosphere, the seriousness, the tension and all has suddenly vanished. All of them have come in a celebration mode now. Now I move on to the next paragraph. He told me he had a girlfriend in London and that the war had interrupted their plans of marriage. I said, don't worry, we'll have you beat by Easter. Then you can come back and marry the girl. Then the German soldier further said that he had a girlfriend in London and he could not marry her because of the war. The war had spoiled their plans of marriage. Now Tom is saying jokingly that by Easter time, the British soldiers will defeat the Germans. So after that, this German soldier can come and marry his girlfriend. So see children, they are celebrating Christmas now, and Tom feels that only by Easter the war may end. That is, in another 3 or 4 months' time. See how long the soldiers have to be in the battlefield. Now I move on to the next sentence. He laughed at that and asked if I would send her a postcard he'd give me later, and I promised I would. So this German soldier just laughed at what Tom had said and is asking Tom that if he would give him a postcard, could Tom give this letter or this postcard to that girl? Tom agrees to do that. See children, it's a wartime, isn't it? A war zone. And the German soldiers, they cannot send or post letters. Now I move on to the next paragraph. Another German had been a porter at Victoria Station. He showed me a picture of his family back in Munich. His elder sister was lovely. I told him I should like to meet her someday. He beamed and gave me his family address. Now, Munich is a place in Germany, and the word beamed means to look very happy, to be very happy. So, here the British soldiers and German soldiers are busy talking to each other. So, one German soldier said that he had worked as a porter at Victoria Station. He even showed the picture of his family to Tom. Tom told him that his eldest sister looked very beautiful and Tom would like to meet her. The soldier was very happy to hear this and he gave Tom his address. Now, the next paragraph. Even those who could not converse could still exchange gifts. Our tea for their coffee, our corned meat for their sausage, badges and buttons from uniforms change owners, and one of our boys walked off with a spiked helmet. I myself traded a jackknife for a leather equipment, a fine souvenir to show when I get home. So now, after talking, these Germans and British soldiers, are exchanging gifts. Okay, they have exchanged their tea with their coffee, their corned meat with their sausage, and the badges and buttons from the uniform are also being exchanged. One of the British soldiers was so smart that he took a spiked helmet from the Germans. And Tom himself got a jackknife for a leather equipment belt. Jackknife is a sort of a knife which can be folded, a foldable knife you can say. And he wants to keep it as a souvenir to show his family members. Souvenir means something very valuable, children, which you keep it, and whenever you see that, you uh, think of the person or the place or the event. A sort of a memorable gift, you can say. So, see how friendly the soldiers have become now. There is no question of enmity now. They are totally in celebration mode and they just want to exchange gifts, exchange food, and they're very busy celebrating as if they are old friends. Now I move on to the next paragraph. As it grew late, a few more songs were traded around the fire, and then all joined in for I'm not lying to you, Auld Lang Syne. Then we parted with promises to meet again tomorrow, and was even some discussion about playing a football match. Now, children, after the celebration, they decided to part. Okay, before parting, they sang even some more songs. And Auld Lang Syne is a Scottish folk song, you can say. And this song is about preserving old friendship. So, very happily, both the sides of soldiers sang this song and then they decided to meet again the next day, that is, on Christmas Day, and even they decided to play a football match. So, see how happy both the side soldiers are. The tension, the anger, the hatred, everything vanish. They're so happy after this Christmas celebration. Now I move on to the next paragraph. I was just starting back to the trenches when an old German soldier clutched my arm. My God, he said, why can't we have peace and all go home? I told him gently, that you must ask your emperor. He looked at me searchingly and said, perhaps, my friend, but we must also ask our hearts. So, here, when the celebration was almost over, they decided to return back to their trenches. And Tom was also coming back when an older German soldier just caught him by his arm. Clutch means to catch. And he said, why can't they all have peace and go home? Why to go for this fighting? Because World War I took a long time and both the side soldiers were fed up. So now Tom cannot be very rude to this man, no? So he's telling him that you must ask your king. Emperor means king. So that older soldier, he just looked at Tom intensely. Looked at me searchingly means to look intensely. And he said, that's very true. I should ask my king. But I think we must also ask our hearts. That means both the sides soldiers should ask themselves whether this war is required or not. So, through this experience, Tom now knows that Germans are also decent and very friendly people, like themselves only. But the armies have certain orders to follow, isn't it? So, let's see what Tom is writing in the next paragraph. So, dear sister, tell me, has there ever been such a Christmas Eve in all history? What does it all mean? This impossible befriending of enemies? Those soldiers may be decent fellows, but they follow orders and we do the same. Besides, we are here to stop their army and send it home, and never could we shirk this duty. Shirking duty means we cannot avoid this duty. They cannot neglect this duty. So here, Tom is asking his sister, has she ever heard such a impossible Christmas celebration, that too a Christmas celebrated in the battlefield? Has it ever happened in the history? No way, isn't it? Has anyone heard in the history that two enemy teams came and celebrated Christmas together and they became friends? It's never done like that, isn't it? So he's saying these German soldiers are good. They're also decent fellows like these Britishers. But then both the sides are busy following orders, isn't it? They're here to stop. The Germans are here to stop the British army, and the Britishers are here to stop the German army. And it's their duty. They cannot avoid it. Now, the next paragraph. Still, one cannot help but imagine what would happen if the spirit shown here were caught by the nations of the world. Disputes may arise, but what if our leaders were to offer good wishes in place of warnings, songs in place of insults, gifts in place of reprisals? Would not all wars end at once? So he's saying that how good it would be if the leaders of each nation decide to do something positive. The word reprisals means something violent or harmful which one does to punish someone, a sort of taking revenge, you can say. So he's saying if all the leaders decide not to return bad with bad things only, or if the leaders decide not to take revenge, the world will become a good place, isn't it? So Tom wishes all countries could feel the spirit of that evening which they experienced at the borders, a spirit of brotherhood. If leaders offered opposing nations goodwill instead of threats, would not that war end in peace? Despite talks of peace, Tom wonders if leaders were actually sincere. Now, the next and the last paragraph. All nations say they want peace, yet on this Christmas morning, I wonder if we want it quite enough. So here, he's actually asking the leaders. Every country says that we want peace, the other countries fighting. But then tell me, actually, do these leaders want peace? If they want peace, then they should exchange good things, no children. Instead of war, killing, beating, banging, insults, and all, they should return the feelings in a positive way. When Tom suggests that the German emperor had ruled out immediate peace, the older German soldier, what did he say? He said that the real answers may have to come from the hearts of the actual people who are suffering in the battlefield. They are the soldiers only, isn't it? For months together, they are there in the battlefield without proper food, shelter, and in such hard climate. Now, towards the end, you can say, this narrative or this letter concludes with an emotional note. Tom is moved by the events of the evening. He is practical about his duty. Yet he has recognized the similarities with the enemy soldiers. He hopes this realization would dawn or affect all humanity. Ordinary people really find it easy to enjoy this war. But then, those who are actually suffering should think of stopping it. Though Tom is a patriot, the evening spent in shared activities with simple soldiers like himself, Tom becomes somewhat philosophical, you can say. He wishes that this experience could translate into lasting peace. Now, between these two armies, the Germans seem to take the initiative that evening, isn't it? They are also more familiar with the enemy's land and language. Both these armies enjoy or celebrate Christmas amidst the misery of war. So here, Tom actually feels that the war should end. Peace will only come if people want it. So this is the end of the letter. Towards the end, he's writing, "Your loving brother Tom." So Tom wrote such a big letter. He started with his experience in the battlefield. Then he told about the Christmas celebration. And towards the end, he becomes a bit more philosophical. He talks about how all the nations can stop this war if they want. The leaders and the actual people who are suffering should try to stop it. Pointing out how soldiers pay the price when leaders fail to keep peace, it emphasizes the futility of war. War is actually a big waste, children. Though you say that one country has won, the other one is defeated, but then actually the people who suffer in the battlefield are the soldiers. So many soldiers die, isn't it? How can you say you won a war when your own soldiers have died there? So many people became homeless. With this, I end the third module.